change up his leads or if he is going to bring that Bishop Cinderace combination. I'm pretty sure he'll be sticking with it though, Adam.
I think we're going to see it at least once. I think it would be churlish of him not to. It is going to be from Yuri's side of the field in this one. There's the Dragapult and Excadrill from James, and oh, there we go. We were correct. Cinderace and Bishop coming immediately out from Yuri's side of the field.
Yeah, now this is interesting because it's kind of a throwback to one of Yuri's previous games where he didn't really have a way to stop the Dragapult going for a max airstream followed up by an Earthquake, and that would put him in a really tricky position. In that game, we saw him not Dynamax the Cinderace straight away and decided to let it go down so he could bring in his Primarina and Dusclops, and I wonder if that's what he's going to be able to go for here as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's played it both ways, right? He's put everything into Cinderace to see if he could get knockouts that way. And he's also played it where he just said, this lead isn't what I wanted, and then been able to mix it up. So be curious to see how he plays it. There's no fake out threat this time, though, so he's going to be able to play that Bishop a little bit differently to previous games. As expected with these very offensive teams, though, we're going to kick off the game with a Dynamaxing. I think a lot of trainers realizing what a big advantage you can carve out with your 3 Dynamax turns early on.
Exactly, James going for the Dynamax here on the Dragapult, hoping to enable its will to survive a potential Sucker Punch from this Bishop. That's exactly what we're seeing here. Despite Dynamaxing, it still does over 50%. That is still a huge chunk of damage, as Dragapult does indeed go for that max airstream, going to boost up the speed in its side of the field. Doesn't pick up the KO against that Cinderace though, so and you know, as it's got the focus sash, you know now the Bishop's going to be hanging around for this next turn, able to apply pressure to that Dragapult once again. As Excadrill does just go for the Earthquake, picks up the KO against Cinderace, brings that Bishop down to 7 HP, and this is the exact same play we saw in a previous game for Yuri, where he's now able to just go straight for that Trick Room mode, bringing in that Dusclops, and there isn't really anything James is able to do to stop it, considering there's Sucker Punch on that Bishop.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to try and get the big damage down from something like a Max Phantasm, he's going to get Sucker Punched. And that doesn't look like the best option right now, seeing how low the Dragapult is. So really kind of tough. Obviously, the Dragapult took damage from the Earthquake as well. That's not always the nicest. Still clinging on. So this Excadrill kind of has to play a little more carefully. But it does have options, you know, being able to Iron Head, Fish for Flinches is always nice. And we'll see how James plays out this one. Obviously, we've noticed before, losing the Cinderace turn 1 is not a problem. Dusclops comes in and starts to set up for the late game win conditions.
Exactly, there is a plan there for Yuri, but of course if James does have that Snorlax in the back, this could be the opportune moment to bring it in. Dragapult wanting to dodge out of the way of a Sucker Punch as Snorlax does join the field, and if Snorlax joins as Trick Room goes up, this can put Snorlax in a great position to start setting up and dealing out some big offensive pressure. Iron Head coming out though from the Excadrill, trying to potentially stop the Trick Room and just get a little bit of damage on Dusclops, but Dusclops saying, I'm able to take that easy, let me set up Trick Room, let's do what I do.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect for the Dusclops. This Bishop still sticking around, and honestly, James making one of the toughest decisions to switch out your Dynamax Pokemon. You know, you only got 1 turn of value out of it. And this Dusclops trying to slow things down a little bit, trying to land the Will-O-Wisp, doesn't get there, and we do get confirmation nice and early on. James is running the Curse Snorlax. No concerns with belly drums after you've seen that.
Yeah, exactly, Curse. Just going to raise up the defense as well, which could be pretty helpful against this Bishop. Assurance coming out into the Excadrill, just doing a chunk of damage, as Excadrill does go for that Swords Dance. So able to deal out some decent damage here going forward, as long as it's able to survive out the turn.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be careful how it's dealing it. Obviously, an Earthquake would be nice. You don't want to Swords Dance boost and start attacking yourself, though. Have to be a little bit careful. Excadrill doesn't want to take advantage of its Swords Dance immediately. Just protecting up. Dusclops, though, trying to spread that Will-O-Wisp, making sure that these Pokemon can't do as much damage as James would like.
Yeah, this is something Yuri has to be good at, is calling where the protects are going to be. Because you don't want to waste a turn firing a Will-O-Wisp into that Excadrill, for example, as it's protected. Snorlax, though, able to go for a Nulla Curse here, so boosting up its attack, despite that Will-O-Wisp boost, is just trying everything it can to be able to deal out some big damage with C-Bomb potentially in the next turns if Primarina comes in. Snorlax taking a little bit of chip there from the burn, though, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the Snorlax is going to start, you know, losing a little bit of health between turns because of the burn, but the boost from Curse balancing out with the reduction from the burn. It'd be interesting to see if Alessio could get the Excadrill burned as well. I think that would be really, really problematic. And Snorlax showing off, yeah, it's got Seed Bomb, and that's a comfortable knockout on a 7 health Bishop with a critical hit to rub it in.
Yeah, really not needed the critical hit, but Snorlax just testing out, I suppose, if it's still got the power to be able to pick up KOs against Primarina potentially in the back. Dusclops, though, going to whittle away at Snorlax's health a little bit more with the Pain Split as the Excadrill goes for another Sword Stance, maybe feeling like the Will-O-Wisp was going to be targeted in its direction this turn, so just wants to gain as much attack as it possibly can. It also allows Excadrill another turn where it can potentially protect and try and stall out this Trick Room so that it can deal some big damage once it's over. But Yuri here bringing in that Primarina, and we have to remember he has not had his Dynamax yet. This could be the opportune moment to start firing off some really powerful Max Geysers.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the option, right? Is get everything going on the Primarine and get it going quickly. That said, it is 4 versus 2. Once again, while he has made comebacks from this before, the Snorlax is very healthy. The Excadrill is pretty healthy too. So, you know, there's a lot riding on this Primarina to get the damage down that it needs and get it down quickly. If it doesn't get the knockout on Excadrill, it's going to take an attack that's boosted by Sword Stance. If it doesn't get the knockout on Snorlax, it's going to start taking Seed Bomb. So, really, this combination that James has on the field causes a lot of issues for the Primarina right now, and the Dusclops can only do so much.
Yeah, Yuri there really trying to lock in his moves as quickly as possible. Took all the time there to think about things. Oh, did he manage to get that locked in time? I feel like he just snuck in the Max Geyser there. But no, doesn't look like it did. Timeout there for him, unfortunately. Excadrill going for the Protect, though, as Snorlax does go for the Darkest Lariat. So really good move pool on this Snorlax against both these Pokemon. Darkest Lariat to target the Dusclops and Seed Bomb to target the Primarina. Will-O-Wisp going into the Protect, though, of that Excadrill, followed up by the Hyper Voice here. So, going to be dealing a little bit of damage to that Snorlax, activating the leftovers. That's really going to be counteracted by the burn. But I think the devastating thing here for James is actually how little that Darkest Lariat did to that Dusclops. The burn is really putting in some work.
Yeah, I mean, the burn balancing out the Curse, really kind of showing the difference. I've talked about it before. The difference between Belly Drum and Curse. Curse takes so long to get that similar damage output. But, you know, I think the set, obviously, Darkest Lariat getting really good damage down on the Dusclops, Seed Bomb getting good damage down on the Primarina, you know, does mean the Snorlax is going to be a problem. This Excadrill still, you know, keeping on the field with these boosts, and this turn, there's no Trick Room in play. So the Dusclops is basically being asked to both Will-O-Wisp the Excadrill and keep it in check, and, of course, set up the Trick Room. So this game could get, you know, a little bit dicey. We are going to see the Dynamax on the Primarina finally, but is it too late for James's side, for Alessio's side of the field to withstand what James is putting down?
Yeah, James has been able to masterfully preserve his Excadrill. It hasn't taken a Will-O-Wisp. It's been able to get 2 Sword Stances up, and Trick Room is over. So it's in the prime position to start dealing out some really big damage. Iron Head going into that Dusclops, not actually able to pick up the KO as Primarina goes for the Max Geyser. Going to target down into that Snorlax slot, actually. So Excadrill able to hang on and dodge out of the way of that attack. If this Dusclops is able to flinch, doesn't even need to flinch, it's going to be KO'd by the Darkest Lariat there.
Yeah.
It's going to say it could be the opportune way to get rid of Trick Room. There's 2 ways to do it, get a flinch or double up, and either way James played to both of those odds there. But I'm curious why the Max Geyser didn't go straight into that Excadrill. It seemed like such a dynamic threat.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, you know, he knew that the Excadrill was going to get to attack. Trick Room wasn't in play, so he said, all right, I'm going to have to avoid the double up, and I've got to get that knockout on Snorlax. Falling short there, really problematic, and now, you know, the Excadrill's just going to be able to start attacking this Primarina, and the Snorlax is going to follow up pretty soon as well if it doesn't get knocked out. If you don't knock it out, though, you're just going to get Excadrill attacked next turn. So this Primarina facing down 4 Pokemon with no Trick Room, probably a bit too much of an ask for it.
Yeah, Primarina is known to be able to deal lots of big damage, but thanks to the massive damage it took from that Iron Head, it's going to be in a pretty tricky situation to try and go through the whole of James's team, particularly as those Seed Bombs are actually doing notable damage as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the joy of the Curse, bringing back your attack to where it was, you know, if you weren't burned. The damage not sticking because of those leftovers, and yeah, Primarina's pretty low, facing down 3 Pokemon now. One of them's going to be a Dragapult. And you know, you think between the 2 of them, they'd probably be able to wrap it up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, whichever Pokemon you target down in this situation, that's the thing with being in a Dynamax, you can only target 1 Pokemon, so it always leaves the partner free to go for a move. In this case, this Dragapult here going for the Phantom Force. So just going to hide this turn and reappear behind Primarina in the next for some good damage. Max Geyser, they're coming out from the Primarina into that Snorlax, finally able to remove it from the field, but there is still a mountain to climb for that Primarina. You know Dragapult's attacking the next turn. James is going to reveal his fourth and final Pokemon that will have full HP, and your Dynamax turns are over.
Yeah, I mean, it's Arcanine, so it's not exactly the perfect Pokemon to deal with it here. Don't forget, Dynamax does end here for this Primarina. That means it has access to spread moves again. But it's still got to take a Phantom Force from this Dragapult. The rain's up, so if it can hit, you know, this is basically going to decide if it gets there or not. Primarina doesn't hold on. Was maybe a bit too much to ask from a very offensive Dragapult. And that's going to wrap up game number 1 for James.
Yeah, Dragapult too strong there in the end for Primarina.
Game number 1 and moving on. But I mean, there's so many ways you can play Cinderace. It has access to 4 types, which is pretty crazy. I mean, not many Pokemon can do that. It can change its type to an advantageous type that it wants. So I'd be curious to see exactly what he decides to go with in game number 2.
Yeah, I wonder in game 2 if that Cinderace is going to change up which form it wants to be in. It's going to be a change though from James, going for Dragapult and Rotom as his leads. And actually, whoa, what is this? Yuri's changing up his leads too. He's still got the Bishop, a wise choice considering there is a Dragapult on the field, but he's paired up this time with Togekiss, who can provide a little bit more of a supportive role.
That's not a Cinderace. What is he doing? It's very new, but obviously plenty of options there. This Togekiss and Bishop combination, both of them really not pleasant for the Dragapult to deal with, and with James Dynamaxing that in the previous game, maybe that's something that he's saying, you know what, this has been the big problem for me. So moving it around, being able to kind of adapt some interesting hovers, I think, from Alessio here, something we've not seen before, and this may throw James for a loop. If he can execute this perfectly, I'll be really interested to see how this game turns out.
Yeah, I'm loving these adjustments here by Yuri. Gonna Dynamax up that Bishop as well to apply a big amount of pressure onto that Dragapult, and of course Max Darkness as well will reduce the special defense of the opposing Pokemon. That's going to help out Primarina late game as well. Ooh. Dragapult though, of course, fearing this Bishop, goes straight away for a Protect. No Dynamax on James's side as Rotom goes straight for a Thunderbolt, going to break that Focus Sash and do a good chunk of damage as Bishop, he looks mean, he is going for that Max Darkness into the Rotom, does a huge amount of damage. Of course Dragapult able to avoid that attack thanks to Protect and doesn't go through, but Rotom proccing its berry as well means that is one less thing that James has to help carry him through this game. Togekiss follows up with a Dazzling Gleam that would have been a good little bit of damage onto that Dragapult, but follows up with a little bit of chip on that Rotom. Oh wait, sorry, not a little bit of chip, a critical hit.
Togekiss getting those critical hits, not uncommon for the Togekiss,
wow.
But that's super essential. I mean, even with the berry in play, that Rotom's no longer in play, and that Togekiss probably feeling real safe right about now. One of its threats gone. Obviously, the Excadrill could be an option there as well. The Arcanine comes in for James, and we get to see one of the most dangerous interactions in the game. Intimidate, taking the attack down, but Defiant, putting it up another stage, going up sharply as well. This is going to be a big old Bishop and a big old problem, I think, for James. I love this adaptation from Yuri.
Oh, same, and I love the synergy from the Bishop and the Togekiss there as well. Of course, the Max Darkness will lower the special defense on James's side, allowing that Dazzling Gleam to deal even more damage despite the critical hit, able to remove that Rotom from play. Now James has brought in that Arcanine, probably forced to do so just to try and remove Bishop, going for that Fire-type move, and particularly if you Dynamax it, then you've got that big, scary Fire-type to pressure that Bishop. But of course, Togekiss doesn't have to always go on the offensive. It can be supportive and use that Follow Me as well and draw away those Fire-type attacks. That's exactly what we're seeing here. So this Dragapult sitting really, really exposed, as is the Arcanine. Oh, actually, Dragapult going, no, I'm not exposed. I'm going to hide. I'm going to hide in this game and appear on the next turn. As the Arcanine does go for that Max Flare, redirected by the Togekiss, going to deal a decent chunk of damage and of course set the sun up as well, meaning those Fire-type moves will be even more powerful going into the next turn.
Yeah, but that Togekiss is still sitting pretty, and this Bishop calling the Phantom Force so well, being able to land a Max Darkness over on the Arcanine, bringing it down to under half even while it is Dynamaxed itself. The special defense drop obviously going to help out a little bit if it's something like a special attacker that Yuri wants to kind of wrap up this game with. But, you know, this Togekiss can still just start follow-meing, still draw a ton of attention to itself and make sure that this Bishop gets to maximize its third turn of its Dynamax.
Yeah, Togekiss here being so critical, able to take that Phantom Force, meaning it's going to be able to also redirect the second Max Flare coming out from this Arcanine. So Bishop able to be supported through all 3 turns of its Dynamax, able to deal out some really big damage. Togekiss will be KO, but I feel like it's really done its job in this situation as Bishop goes for another Max Darkness, this time targeting into that Dragapult that's reappeared, picking up a really clean KO and reducing the special defense again of that Arcanine.
Yeah, the Arcanine now at 2 stages of reduced special defense, making many options a little bit easier to tidy up. Something like the, I don't know, Primarina would easily be able to deal with that. That said, though, you know, he is going to show off the Cinderace. This could be interesting. You talked about it before the game. You said they're usually not on the field at the same time. But it looks like in game number 2, they're actually going to match up head-to-head. Cinderace versus Snorlax. Bishop's Dynamax has ended. That could be a little bit problematic, but, you know, it's still got the boost from Defiant. Still going to be able to cause an absolute ruckus with these Sucker Punches.
Exactly, those Sucker Punches, gaining that priority speed, are going to still be able to apply a lot of pressure. Going here into the Arcanine, not quite enough to pick up the KO thanks to the Dynamax HP boost that Arcanine has got, and it will be allowed to eat its berry as well, just to regain that extra bit of health. As Cinderace goes for the high jump kick, going to be changing its form into that fighting type as well, and targeting straight into that Snorlax for some huge damage. It actually picks up a straight one-hit KO. Honestly, is there anything the Cinderace cannot do, Adam?
I mean, that's high risk, high reward, and we all know it with high jump kick. We all know the galling feeling when it misses. But I mean, it doesn't matter there. It's just able to take an easy knockout on this Snorlax. And that means the Arcanine, you know, does get to fire back with the Max Flare into Bishop. That said, though, Arcanine's now facing down a Cinderace, which is faster than it, and a Primarina, which has a super effective move against it, and it's not got much health left.
Yeah, it doesn't have much health left, and it's -2 special defense. So although the sun is up, I feel like Arcanine needs a lot more to be able to win it back from this. But amazing plays there by Alessio, really changing up his Pokemon and preserving the Pokemon he needs for the end. Like, I honestly feel like I need to eat all my words from this game. First of all, underestimating that Togekiss targeted the partner slot, only picking up the KO on that last one once it re-emerged from its Phantom Force. And I just feel like that pressure alone, even out of Dynamax for the Sucker Punch, really does stall the potential that you can get from that Dragapult. So I wonder in game 3 if there's going to be any changes. James going for Togekiss and the Excadrill, and Yuri going back to basics, going for that Cinderace and Bishop, maybe thinking that James is going to counter that excellent lead I did in game 2. So he's going back to the amazing lead that has championed him through so many games.
Yeah, it's back. He knows what works for him, and he knows how he can play with this lead. He kind of calls, I think, the change from James, saying, you're going to mix it up. I'm going to mix it back up to where we started as well. So, like you say, really heads-up play. We'll see if this combination of a little bit of speed control and damage from Cinderace, followed up by Assurance, is going to be enough. But it looks like Yuri's really mulling this turn over, back and forth in his menu, as we can see. We don't often get to see the menu and kind of get in that thought pattern of these players. But it looks like he's going to try and make a big call here and push himself into an advantage really early on. There it is, turn 1, Dynamax.
Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary so far from Yuri with this Dynamax on the Cinderace, but of course the move selections and the synergy will tell a different story as the game goes on. But I wonder if James has also decided to go for a Dynamax in this occasion, and if so, which Pokemon has he opted for? If there's going to be matched Airstreams, he might need to match them, but no Dynamax. Instead, it's going to be the Protect from the Togekiss going on the defensive, as Cinderace goes straight for the Max Strike. So Libero going to turn it into the normal type as it connects into the Excadrill here. So going to be lowering the speeds on the opposing side, doing about 50%. If this is followed up by an Assurance, it's going to pack a really heavy punch.
Yeah, and I think that's what Yuri went for here. Getting the speed down, really important. Something that we talked about in previous games. He's got to make sure the speeds are controlled, and being able to do that with both Max Strike and Max Airstream is so important. He gets a knockout turn 1, and yeah, we're back to where we've been before. The Cinderace Bishop lead just picks up knockouts really early on, causes a whole lot of problems. And this Rotom's not going to be one of the best things to fight back with, especially if he keeps his type well away from being, you know, the fire type that it normally is.
Exactly, being able to change your type can be so critical here depending on what Pokemon your opponent has got. And I really like how versatile Cinderace can be. Like you said, it's got 2 different modes of speed control, and either can lead to an advantage about whether it changes your ability, changes your sort of typing, or whether you can hit it for super effective damage. Yuri here, I think, debating about which move he wants to go for on this occasion, whether he wants to get the speed up on his side in case there are some switches on James's side, or if he just wants to try and pick up some big damage against the Pokemon on James's side of the field. But James deciding now is the time to go from defensive into attack and going for a Dynamax.
Yeah, and I think he needs to try and get some knockouts quickly to kind of level up the Pokemon count and swing the game back in his favor. The Rotom going to be the favored Dynamax. It is one of my favorite looking Dynamaxes. Not relevant, but I thought that'd be good to mention. It just looks so ridiculous. Yeah, fun fact. Togekiss tries to protect again. This could get interesting really, really quickly. The Max Knuckle changing the type to fighting, obviously maybe trying to call a switch there, but it is going to land big damage down on the Rotom. That's no shock, and it's going to start boosting attacks, including the attack of his Bishop. I think we know what's coming next. Rotom gets to fire back a Max Lightning. Ooh, not enough.
Oh, boosting up the attack on that Bishop is a fantastic move. Potentially calling in a switch, but then still able to deal some decent damage with that Max Knuckle. Bishop now goes for the boosted Iron Head into that Togekiss, picks up a really clean KO there. Again, just this phenomenal synergy between Cinderace and Bishop is being expertly piloted by Yuri in this game. And he has picked up 2 very clean KOs very early on in this game. And James is down to just his Dragapult and the Rotom.
Yeah, this game's kind of snowballing out of control right now. Basically, you know, this Cinderace able to just start putting down damage, getting the boost that he needed on that Bishop, so importantly, to say, hey, make sure Iron Head knocks out the Togekiss. So even if, you know, he got redirected, the Iron Head would get the knockout, and then he'd be really kind of problematic in this regard. Dragapult's going to protect. I think that's important, but it doesn't look like Yuri's going to be slowing down with the damage he's trying to deal here.
Exactly, unless Rotom's able to remove the Bishop from play, it's going to be able to apply pressure for that Dragapult all day long. Max Strike going to go into that Rotom though, and will be able to pick up the KO. Of course, attack boost as well from that Max Knuckle, really, really paying off dividends here, and putting Yuri into just such an amazing... This whole game has just snowballed. It's been clean KO, KO, KO. Every single turn of the Dynamax, one Pokemon goes back into the Pokeball for James. And Dragapult is not the Pokemon that wants to be here right now. One Sucker Punch should be able to pick up the game.
Yeah, Sucker Punch after that boost from the earlier Max Knuckle alongside the Cinderace really causing problems. James doesn't even try to fight back, and Alessio Boschetto